What's up, guys? What a day we had on our hands today. DCIX, the IT stock, giving me probably the biggest single trade halt washout long, biggest win ever. I'm pretty sure. The fastest $21,000, the fastest $20,000 I've ever made. Total duration of this trade was, I looked it up, it was only a minute and 33 seconds. You'll see it in the video. Fastest 20 grand I've ever made. So that in itself is just epic. Absolutely epic. Let's go ahead and quickly look at what DCIX has been doing. This stock went on a tear on Friday. Pretty textbook action. I mean, this is the epic textbook squeeze that you want to see. You know, the VWAP reclaim and then the staircase, and then it just speeds up, and then it starts skipping dollars on all these people, all these shorts. And I was one of the people that got, flipped inside out on Friday on the short side, I must admit. But this thing started in the fours, ended up close to 20 for fading off. And if you guys seen my videos in the past, every single time I talk about this end of day fade, this is actually very, very dangerous for shorts when they get this kind of move and they try to hold overnight, because it gets them thinking that they can comfortably hold this thing, that it'll probably just go back to where it came from. But more often than not, the next day, as we see right here, you start getting this action creeping up pre-market, and guess what? Next thing you know, this thing, which had closed in the tens, it stayed above 10, but it was below 10 briefly today. But next thing you know, it started ramping up pre-market, and next thing you know, it was at 17, and this thing just takes off out of the gate. And I was looking for a washout between 13 to 14, maybe 14.5, and it didn't quite get there, so I didn't get in on this move. But it gave us a gift of a second chance right here. After this thing just kept taking off, 15, 16, 17, 18, all the way up to 22. It halted on a circuit breaker. Crazy how fast this thing moved. It moved so fast it got halted on a circuit breaker on just a second candle, 6 minutes into the day. I mean, if you guys know the circuit breaker rules, if you don't, you should look it up. Circuit breakers are 20%. The LUDP bands are double in the first 15 minutes, 9:30 and 9:45. So they're 20%. It requires 20% for it to trigger, as opposed to 10% throughout the rest of the day, aside from the last 25 minutes. So pretty much between 9:45 to 3:35 p.m. Eastern time, we have 10%. Any other time, it's 20%. And right here on the resume, this is where I got in right here. This is the money right here. Pre-market highs. Perfect holder on that wick. I actually got in against the prior day's highs, which was 19. So my entry was actually right here. Right here. So, and then it sold it on the pop. I sold it around 22, way too early, as you can see. But my thinking was, I didn't want to get stuck in a circuit breaker on its way up. I was trying to do like a running calculation in my head, 20% of, 17 on that bottom, 19. I was expecting this thing maybe to halt again around 20, 21, 22, around there. So I sold around 22. Maybe it could have held a little bit longer, but I would have absolutely regretted it if I didn't take my profits, given that I was up $20,000 and I got halted on another circuit breaker and that turned into a T12 or something like that. I would have just cried for days. So I just decided to take it off. Way too much money not to take off the table. Yeah, I could have held it, made 40 grand, but it is what it is. But as you can see, the stock just danced around, chopped around for the rest of the day. Did hit a new high of 28, but as you saw me tweet out on Twitter throughout the course of the day, that high of daybreak wasn't very clean. It should have panicked a lot more. It should have been a 30 magnet, if not more. Instead, it kind of just popped up, hung around, and just chopped around, and eventually faded all the way back down to 17 before just chopping around again for the rest of the day. So pretty much after the morning, this was not really that tradable. After I saw this kind of action, when this thing ramped to new highs, and it should have really just squeezed the heck out of the remaining shorts when it really didn't, provoke any panic on their end. I pretty much realized that this thing was not really that much tradable anymore, and largely just left it alone. So let's go ahead and just jump right into the footage, as you guys have probably been waiting to see. Really epic footage here of this halt washout, halt resume washout long. My biggest halt resume washout long win ever. All right, we pick it up here around 9:34. The stock is halted. I actually didn't hit record. Apparently, I wanted to record from pre-market, but I couldn't. I accidentally didn't hit the button or something like that. But as you can see, currently Tops is running, but DCIX is halted. It's gonna resume around 9:40, around 9:40ish, 9:39, 9:40ish. I actually did recall this thing didn't resume on time. It should have resumed around 9:39, but it didn't. It resumed at 9:40 instead. Let's go ahead and just fast forward this while we wait for the resume. But Tops is right now taking off 160. Maybe I should have traded it, but I really wanted to focus on nailing this DCIX washout long properly. As you can see me, I do go ahead and draw the support and resistance lines there. Technical analysis on the fly on Tops. And at the same time, I did recognize that I didn't have any support and resistance lines drawn beyond the chart right there on DCX beyond that range. So you'll see me in a second draw the DCX support and resistance lines as well. So again, I'm looking for this stock to dip back down toward the prior day's highs first, 19.519, and then the pre-market highs at 17.5. Those are the two levels that you want to look at for the halt washout long, because obviously right now the shorts are in pain. As I mentioned in every single washout long video, when the shorts are in pain, they're going to look to cover when the stock drops back to their break even. The best possible short from Friday is in at 19.5, and if he sees this stock drop down to 19.5 after it hit 23 right there, when it goes back to 19.5 and he sees it hold, he's gonna be like, you know what, this is probably my last chance to get out, and that's gonna cause the bounce, and that's what's gonna allow the washout long to work. So let's go ahead. A couple more minutes before DCIX resumes. You see Tops is also actually halted at the moment as well. All right, we're about to get the resume, so I'm going to slow it down to real time. So I'll play the trade in real time so you guys see exactly what happened. Wasn't the cleanest trade. It actually hung around for a little bit. There you go. Open at 18. You can kind of see that the stock tested pre-market highs. I tried to get in there at 19 there, fill the partial. There you go. I got 6,900 shares. Stock hanging around 19 there, back to 20. So the best possible fill there was below 18. It was really pretty much impossible to get it. Maybe we got lucky, but I got in at 19. 19.13 is my average. So we're now just watching to see those pre-market highs hold. 17.5. That's where it dipped to the first time around. If 17.5s don't hold, something is probably really wrong. But you can see I try to add here to get to an even 10,000 shares. Don't quite get it. But you'll see in a second that I'll be a very, very happy camper as this stock is popping back over 20. 21 now. Already up 5 figures. 22. You'll see me try to sell in a second. There we go. Here's my sell, 22.1, and I'm all out. $20,488. Look at the time, guys. Only a minute and 33 seconds passed from my first entry to my exit. Unreal trade. At this time, you'll see the stock actually take off a lot higher. And again, my thought process was I thought this thing was probably going to trigger a second circuit breaker halt around that 22 area, which is why I decided to sell it. But maybe it just, for whatever reason, these circuit breaker halts, they're very inconsistent. So sometimes they get it, sometimes they don't. Better be safe than sorry. Again, you'll see this thing hit 26, I believe, and it means I could have made, another 20 grand, so 40 grand total, which kind of sucks, but hey, I'm happy with the 20,000. This is my biggest gain in the shortest amount of time. This is the fastest 20 grand I've ever made in my trading career. Can't go wrong with that. Better be safe than sorry. Again, with the whole circuit breaker halt risk, I didn't want to get stuck in that. But you'll see in a second, this thing will give another very, very nice washout long after topping out here at 26. And I get in again with smaller size, of course. Here we go, 24, 24 lost, 23, 23 is going down, 22. Look how fast it drops. See, what happens if you miss the sell? Imagine if you chase this thing at like 24, 25, and you miss the sell at 26. So I get in 500 shares there, back in the 19s. It's going to be a really quick scalp. I sell it right away. Quick $700 or something like that. Again, could have held, but at this point, I'm up really good, man. I'm really just playing ultra safe. Again, don't want to get stuck in any halts or anything like that. The stock is already up huge. Just taking my quick profits. So those are the only 2 trades that I made in this video. So I'm just going to speed things up a little bit just so you guys watch what else transpired in the rest of the morning. But for the most part, this trade was pretty simple. I mean, this thing ramped up. I stayed disciplined, didn't try to chase it out of the gate, get stuck in the halt or anything like that. Imagine if I chase it at 23, 22, 23, and then the stock gets a circuit breaker halt and it gaps down to 18. I mean, I would have been down $5 a share. This is exactly why I kept saying this is why I sold early. I mean, I didn't want to get stuck in a circuit breaker halt. Granted, it may not be that doomsday disaster scenario where the stock will turn into a T12 or something like that and then gap down like 90%. But, as you can see, after the first circuit breaker halt, this thing opened at like 18 or something like that. I mean, I can't really, put myself in that situation at risk of getting stuck in a circuit breaker halt, not knowing where it's going to open, So I'm completely content with my sells, even though it was way too early. I just wanted to protect myself from getting stuck in something. And, if I did and it gapped down like $6 or something like that, I wouldn't be able to forgive myself, especially if I was up 20 grand in just a minute and 33 seconds. So I just want to take a second and talk about why these halt washout longs are so money. And it's basically because it's just another version of the opening bell, because everyone knows the stock is halted, just like at the opening bell. Everyone knows that the opening bell rings at 9:30. Everyone has their watch list. They're watching the top stock. Everyone's watching DCIX today because it's a hot stock. So everyone's just sitting there waiting at their computer, trying to wait to make their first trade. And this causes like a really sharp push or drop or whatever direction the order imbalance is in. And there's going to be a very sharp move, and that's why you get these big candles at the open, and that's why you get these big panic pop shorts and washout longs at the open. And this is why, for the same reason, you get these big drops, these big gap downs or gap ups or big moves out that come about after the halt and resume. It's the same thing. It's just another version of the opening bell. People are putting in their orders. There's an order imbalance that's going to cause the stock to like move dramatically in one direction, and it gives us basically another crack at the opening bell. And you know me, I love opening bell trades. So every single time I see a halt, I love to see that it pretty much just gives us another shot at like an opening bell type trade, which is money. And I took full advantage of this, as you can see, locking in the monster gains. So I mean, this is a sharp contrast compared to, say, like a stock that pops up on scanner in the middle of the day, because those catch people off guard. You know, those stocks that catch people off guard, they don't get the quick, sharp moves because people get the alert at different moments and different times, and it's not really a bum rush to the gate, right? It's not a bum rush to the gate. So whereas the halt or the opening bell is just a huge, huge bum rush. Everyone's just piling on, fighting each other for fills versus a random stock that pops up in the middle of the day. One chat room might get it here, then next chat room might jump on it next. So you kind of have this more of this wave effect as opposed to just people just cramming in trying to get in. So you get less of a sharp panic type of move, which is what we're looking for. We want that panic. Panic is where we find human emotion, and human emotion is where we find our edge. So right now we got tops dropping. This was probably a long here on tops. I should have taken it. It dropped right there to prior day's highs. Pretty nice entry there for tops. As you can see, I had my cursor over it, so I was probably contemplating it. But right now I'm just, so in shock and awe out of that monster trade I just made, that I'm just really trading very, very overly cautious, if anything, extremely conservatively, just to not screw up the day. Sometimes it's just better to just do that. I've already made my day. I don't really need to do anything stupid. You hear me say that in a lot of my videos, that every single time I nail that first trade and big, yeah, I just really, really crank up the threshold in terms of the parameters that I'm looking for, the criteria that I'm looking for me to take that next trade, because I feel like my work is done, but I don't want to miss if there's a big dump or another big halt washout long or something like that, should it come up. But I'm just waiting for the creme de la creme of trades right now. So basically I'm just sitting here. If there's a grind down or something like that, I'm not going to touch it, even with small size. If there's a big nice little panic yank, be more than happy to take a shot, 500 shares or something like that, maybe add another $500 to my day. But right now, nothing like that. As I said, I didn't make another trade for the rest of this video. I'm just having it play so you guys can just see how the rest of this morning played out. I believe I had this video recorded until about 10:15 or something like that. So again, DCAX is now halted again. As you can see, it halted this time on a much smaller candle. As I said before, past 9:45, the LUDP bands are 10% instead of 20% before 9:45. So a lot looser criteria for it to halt. Tops is also halted. Let's just speed things up a little bit. There we go. Resume. You got another little gap down there, which was playable again. I just didn't take it. I was probably waiting for 17s or something like that. Again, just waiting for the big move. Didn't feel like that was enough of a drop for me to play, so I didn't take it. Maybe I could have, but wasn't feeling it, or given the amount of money I'm up on the day. See, tops also resumed, and it just didn't really move that much. So I didn't really like the way tops traded for the most part after the open. So that's why I didn't trade it. And of course, again, the DCIX profits definitely playing a role in my trade selection here on out. So as you see, DCIX, not really much in terms of range, relatively speaking. It's kind of stuck in a $1 range. Nothing too great. So let's speed things up. Yeah, not really much to trade at the moment. Yeah, I believe that's pretty much it. I don't think there's really much more to this video. Let me see if there's really anything else to talk about. Nope. Nope. So that's about it, guys. Pretty simple concept. I've talked about this several times before in many other videos. Check those out as well, just to show you guys how effective this strategy is. If there's still any people that are still doubting that this doesn't work, if you guys follow me on Twitter, I've been doing really well despite the loss on Friday. You know, still averaging a 95% win rate with these type of scalp trades, getting in and out quick, mitigating the risk, minimizing exposure to the market, potentially things like news or halts. You know, that's the premise. That's the logic behind why I do what I do. You know, get in and out. Don't put yourself in a position where you might get screwed by random market events. Take profits when you can. And if you wait for the right setup, your hit rate's going to be very high, and you're going to be pretty much stress-free most of the time and not having to manage a very difficult trade, a difficult losing trade. So that being said, guys, another one in the books. Hopefully we get more and more to come tomorrow and the coming days. Market's hot. Let's hope we keep it that way. We'll see you guys next time.